Coming up, a world-first breakthrough for couples who've had multiple miscarriages.
Are things looking up at Villa as Roy Keane is confirmed as assistant manager?
And why the demand for pet snakes is slithering out of control. That's at 6. Coming up, a number of suspects are questioned by police in Portugal over the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Details next.
Catch up with all that's been happening around the country and around the rest of the world in half an hour after the ITV News from here.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Central. On the programme tonight, police investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann interview key suspects.
A world-first breakthrough from Midland fertility experts for couples who suffer multiple miscarriages.
Next stop, Denmark for Team GB's wheelchair rugby stars.
A colourful and often controversial career. Now Roy Keane's coming to Villa.
And find out why demand for pet snakes is soaring. Good evening. It's being reported that British detectives working in Portugal on the disappearance of Madeleine McCann are sitting in on interviews with 4 suspects. It's believed they'll all be questioned individually by Portuguese officers.
Well, let's cross to the newsroom now where our correspondent Andy Bevan has more on this. Andy, do we know who these suspects are?
Well, Steve, no names for any of them so far, but reports in the Portuguese media say they're all men. 3 of them are Portuguese nationals, thought to be former employees of the resort in Praia da Luz, where the McCann family was staying. The 4th man is Russian. He's believed to have been living in Praia da Luz at the time that Madeleine from Roseley in Leicestershire went missing from the family's rented holiday apartment. Now, British police, seen here arriving at the police station earlier today, will sit in on the interviews, but only Portuguese officers will ask the questions. The men are being treated as arguidos, that Portuguese word you may remember from the early days of this investigation, which means a person of interest. It's understood all the men went to the police station of their own free will. Last month, British police were involved in fingertip searches of sites around Praia da Luz as part of the re-investigation into Madeleine's disappearance. Officers from Scotland Yard, along with their Portuguese counterparts, carried out digs on 3 areas of land near to where she went missing as part of Operation Grange, which is the name for the British police investigation. Madeleine was 3 years old when she disappeared in May 2007. She would now be 11 years old.
Andy, have Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, had anything to say about these latest developments?
No, they recently said it was gratifying to know that a substantial amount of work was taking place with the close cooperation of the British and Portuguese authorities, but their spokesman said at the time they wouldn't comment on specific details of Operation Grange. Suffice to say, though, they'll undoubtedly be following the outcome of these Portuguese police interviews with great interest.
Andy, thank you very much.
A mother of 2 killed at her home in Birmingham was strangled to death, according to a post-mortem examination carried out today. 42-year-old Luann Lee died at her home in Pipe Hayes on Sunday. Her 15-year-old son was stabbed in the chest, while her 9-year-old daughter also suffered strangulation injuries. Police have been granted extra time to question her ex-partner on suspicion of murder and 2 attempted murders.
Meanwhile, a man and a woman are still being questioned over the murder of a pensioner from Halesowen. 80-year-old Cynthia Beaumont was reported missing on Friday. Her body was found hidden in her home in Howley Grange 2 days later. Her car, a laptop and a TV are missing. Police have until tomorrow morning to question the pair.
The West Midlands' first police and crime commissioner, Bob Jones, has died suddenly at the age of 59. Wolverhampton born and bred, he worked as a councillor in the city for more than 30 years and served on the West Midlands Police Authority. Mr Jones was awarded a CBE in 2010 for services to policing and was elected commissioner in 2012. He died in his sleep last night. A book of condolence has been opened at West Midlands Police Headquarters in Birmingham.
It would not be exaggerating to say that he knew more about the detail of policing than anybody I've ever met. But, you know, he was also gracious, and we could disagree, but we'd find a way through because he was utterly committed to serving the people of the West Midlands.
I would often try to sort of fix his tie before he would leave the office, or he would have his cheese and, you know, cheese sandwiches. He would wear an anorak if he could. But he was extremely humble. He just wanted to ensure that the voice of the people was heard.
That's tributes to Bob Jones. Now, the latest stage in the parliamentary process for the plans for a high-speed rail link between London and Birmingham kicked off today. A committee of MPs will, over the next year, hear the views and concerns of those who could be affected by HS2.
The Department of Transport say the link will boost the economy in the Midlands, but some campaigners say the route could damage the environment. Well, our political correspondent Emma Hutchinson joins us now, live from Westminster. Emma, a chance for people to have their say.
Yes, that's right. This committee will meet 3 times a week while Parliament's sitting over the next year or more and hear the concerns and views from those directly affected by HS2. So those who perhaps live nearby to the proposed route, those who have businesses in Birmingham or in the West Midlands. The committee of MPs will also travel up to Birmingham in 2 weeks' time to listen to views there and see the situation for themselves. And those directly affected will get to have their say. Of course, today we started with the Department for Transport. They set out what this high-speed rail link could mean. They say that it could mean trains travelling at 225 miles an hour between London and Birmingham, up and running by 2026. But they say they have heard concerns from hundreds and hundreds of people.
Given the scale and ambition of the project before you, the unsurprising reality is that along the line of the proposed route, there is considerable objection to the scheme. As a result, some 1,918 petitions have been lodged against the bill, although by no means all your petitioners are opposed to the bill in principle. Indeed, a number express their support and say that the bill does not go far enough.
So, Emma, could those who appear before this committee influence, even alter the government's plans?
Well, yes, they could. Of course, there are an awful lot of people who support the plans for HS2, not least the majority of MPs here in Westminster. But we've also seen vociferous campaigns here at Westminster and up in the Midlands against the plans for HS2. And the committee said today that we've already seen some of the route altered, some plans for tunnels where there weren't before because of public opinion. Now, those who have their views heard over the next year or so could alter the route in ways or alter where those tunnels could be. But whether or not they can say an end to HS2, well, they can't do that, but we could see some alterations.
Emma Hutchinson, thank you very much for joining us.
Schools in the West Midlands are taking part in a new project to improve children's maths skills by teaming up with teachers from Asia. Pupils there work at a higher standard than English students, and schools including Bishop Challoner in Birmingham and Paisley Catholic College in Staffordshire have signed up to learn what their secret is.
What we know is that some of the East Asian countries, so China and Japan, are 2 to 3 years ahead of our children by the age of 15. And what these hubs are doing is they're excellent schools already, but they're going to be working with teachers from Shanghai who are going to come over to England and help introduce some of the techniques over there that have been so successful in improving their performance.
The UK's last working Victorian pottery factory has reopened today after a £9 million revamp. Middleport Pottery in Stoke-on-Trent was set to close in 2011, putting 50 jobs at risk. But the Grade 2 listed building was saved by the Prince's Restoration Trust, which carried out a 3-year redevelopment project to secure its future. It now features a visitor centre, workshops and a cafe, and the original bottle kiln has been refurbished.
Soldiers from the 9th 12th Royal Lancers paraded through Derby city centre this morning as part of a series of homecoming parades. The troops also marched through Leicester at the weekend following an 8-month deployment to Afghanistan. They marched carrying traditional lances, which were used in battle during the First World War.
Well, the time's coming up to 10 minutes past 6. You're watching ITV News Central. Still to come. Roy Keane returns to the Midlands, this time to Aston Villa.
And the snake sanctuary that's having to cope with a rise in abandoned pet reptiles. Fertility experts in the Midlands have made a discovery that could help future generations avoid repeated miscarriages. The doctors found that more than 40% of their IVF patients carried a faulty gene that could be responsible for pregnancy losses.
It's also the first time in the world a study has shown that a man can pass on the mutant gene to the embryo. The good news is that once it's been identified that one or both partners are carriers, the woman can be treated and in many cases go on to have a healthy pregnancy. Jane Hesketh reports.
This is Amelia and James, 12 weeks old and a picture of health. Their parents had tried for a baby for 10 years. They'd suffered a miscarriage and a failed IVF cycle before finding out they both carried a gene which is linked to pregnancy loss.
You feel gutted, really. You feel, oh God, it is me. I have done something. Totally, it is me. It's wrong. I can't carry a baby because of this particular gene that's attacking the fetus as it comes in. But then they offer you the drugs and you got talked through it and you find the answer and then you feel elated that something can actually work and be good for you.
It's an important discovery because it takes some of the guesswork out of infertility and offers a potential solution.
This is the first time in the world it's ever been shown that the man could pass on a gene that causes the miscarriage in the woman. So we actually have to test the man as well as the woman. Up until now, if a woman was having miscarriages, she'd go off to a clinic and she would have all the tests. Nobody would ever test the man. That's why this is such a remarkable study.
Treatment involves injections into the stomach to thin the blood so the placenta can work efficiently. Michael and Nicola waited years for their family to arrive, and their message is not to give up hope.
Some great people out there working on these things, and while initially we didn't get the answers to questions, we certainly got the answers the last time we managed the IVF, and here's the result.
While the trauma of a miscarriage will never go away, now couples who've experienced that pain because one or both of them carry the faulty gene now have a realistic chance of having a baby of their own. Jane Hesketh, ITV News.